Croc says he has no regrets over White Land campaign which crippled Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa has said he has no regrets about being part of a regime which presided over the seizure of white-owned farms. Under his predecessor Robert Mugabe, white farmers were evicted in favor of landless black people from 2000 by a controversial policy that wrecked agriculture and triggered an economic collapse. But Mnangagwa, declared winner of historic first elections since Mugabe's downfall, said he did not regret being part of the administration that pushed the reforms through, and appeared to blame the British for the crisis which then unfolded. In an interview with Sky News, he said it was time to let bygones be bygones and said Britain was better when a woman was in charge of the country. The land reforms prompted Western sanctions and Zimbabwe's exit from the Commonwealth. But Mnangagwa, dubbed the Crocodile, told Sky News, "I don't regret, ZANU-PF doesn't regret and the people of Zimbabwe don't regret. Despite the suffering that came on our people as a result of the sanctions, we do not regret acquiring our land again." He then suggested that things are better in Britain when a woman is leading the country. In 1979 when we had Margaret Thatcher, she stopped our war and brought us to the table and we got our independence. This time we have Prime Minister Theresa May. Upon my inauguration she sent an envoy to meet me to say, "Can we re-engage?" So we have re-engaged and it's so beautiful. So I would wish Britain would continue to elect women prime ministers. Before the elections, Mnangagwa said his government was racially blind and needed the expertise of everyone across the economy. Zimbabwe's white population has fallen to less than 1% of the country's 16 million after Mugabe imposed the policy to expropriate farms in 2000. Agricultural output crashed in the aftermath, with investors leaving and mass unemployment forcing millions of Zimbabweans out of the country to seek work. Over the weekend, Mnangagwa, a former Mugabe ally, has called for unity after presidential rival Nelson Chamisa rejected the results, insisting he was the real winner of an election marred by a deadly crackdown on opposition supporters. At least 6 people died after troops in the capital Harare opened fire on demonstrators Wednesday, sparking an international outcry and raising grim memories of post-election violence under Mugabe's repressive rule. Mnangagwa has accused Chamisa's opposition movement for democratic change, MDC, of fomenting the unrest, but said he would set up an independent commission to investigate the killings. Some 24 opposition members appeared in court charged with public violence during the protests, accused of smashing windows at offices of the ruling ZANU-PF party and setting fire to vehicles. They were remanded in custody until a bail hearing on Monday. Defense lawyer Danford Halimani said the 16 men and 8 women had been caught up in an opportunistic dragnet against the opposition. Mnangagwa has insisted that Monday's landmark election was free, fair and credible, hailing the vote as a fresh start as he pushes for an end to Zimbabwe's international isolation. International observers praised the peaceful conduct of the vote, though EU monitors said Mnangagwa enjoyed an unlevel playing field including heavy state media coverage. Mnangagwa won 50.8% against Chamisa's 44.3%, according to official results, just enough to avoid a presidential runoff. Chamisa, a 40-year-old pastor and lawyer, has urged his supporters to refrain from violence as he prepares to challenge the results in court. "We won but they declared the opposite. You voted but they cheated," he said on Twitter on Saturday. Mnangagwa, 75, has said Chamisa is free to mount a legal challenge, though such a move appears to have little chance of changing the result. A former right-hand man to Mugabe, Mnangagwa was chosen to lead ZANU-PF after the brief military intervention last November that ousted the autocrat after 37 years in power. Mnangagwa was allegedly involved in violence and intimidation during the 2008 elections when the opposition pulled out of the runoff following the deaths of at least 200 supporters in attacks. Hailing the election as a festival of unfettered freedom, he has pledged to represent all Zimbabweans, including those who did not vote for him. But rights groups have expressed concern that heavy-handed policing to prevent more opposition protests is a sign of how he intends to govern. Amnesty International said more than 60 people had been arbitrarily arrested in a post-election clampdown on the opposition. Former colonial power Britain said it remained deeply concerned by the violence following the elections and the disproportionate response from the security forces. Overnight, residents said they had seen troops beating up civilians in Chitungwiza, a sprawling satellite town south of Harare. The governing party of South Africa has sparked outrage by posting a tweet on its official account appearing to refer to the white population as murderers. The African National Congress, ANC, tweeted a reaction to their plans to seize white-owned farms and redistribute the land, stating that the biggest mistake we are making is to consult murderers. The ANC later deleted the tweet, and explained that it had been a quote from a member of the public. It comes as 139 farms are being lined up to be seized by the government in the next few weeks, after President Cyril Ramaphosa announced he would be pushing ahead with the expropriation of privately owned land without compensation. On Thursday, the ANC used an official account to live tweet from a review hearing in the Western Cape, which saw members of the public give their views on Section 25, which covers the new policy. The now deleted tweet read, "The biggest mistake we are making is to consult murderers. White people are 9% of the population, they own 79% of land. They never came and consulted us for the land. If they want us to forgive them now, then let us share the land, the mineral resources." However, the shocking tweet was not put in quote marks nor attributed to any single person, sparking furious reactions, with the party being branded racist. After deleting the tweet, the ANC posted, "The tweet is a contribution," remark made by a member of the public. All tweets are a thread from the contributions made by the public, they are not the views of the ANC. However, this explanation was rejected by a number of Twitter users, with one person accusing the ANC of cherry-picking the views which had been racially divisive and tweeting them as their own. Another person added, "You kind of rubber-stamped it by putting it verbatim on your timeline." One said, "He who repeats a statement without distancing himself explicitly is considered repeating it out of agreement," branding the ANC's actions atrocious. Shortly after the Twitter storm, local media reported that the ANC has already lined up 139 farms which they plan on seizing without compensation to their owners in the coming weeks. Zizi Kodwa, an ANC National Executive Committee member who was present at the decision to move to